I uh-oh, hold on. Can you guys still hear me? I just got some type of message. Okay.
Yeah, it's you got to give permission to be recorded. So.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so yeah, my name is Tierney Martins. I own a travel agency called Great Escape Travel, and we focus on tours and trips in Italy and France for the wine enthusiast.
Nice.
Awesome. And Carrie, I'm going to introduce you in just a second. Alan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Alan Reeves. I have an IT company called Mouse Calls that turned 24 years old yesterday.
Wow.
So I'm an old hat.
Congratulations, man.
I appreciate that. I've founded 4 companies. The newest one is an identity theft, dark web monitoring, and credit monitoring protection service. And that is still in its very nascent stage, which is always a lot of fun. You get back to the excitement of the startup mentality, and we're having a lot of fun with it. We've got radio commercials starting next week in a couple of states.
Awesome. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is John Pirate. I'm the business doctor. I'm the host of this show. Along with my co-host here, Alan Reeves. I've been building companies for 31 years. Switched to coaching and consulting nothing but business owners in 2015, and I've had the time of my life ever since, helping small business owners eliminate the frustrations of owning a business and helping them achieve results faster. So I don't actually work. I actually get to do this every day, and this is a lot of fun. And what's funny is I've had back-to-back calls, and I'm sitting here in the parking lot of the golf course because my 15-year-old wanted to play golf, and he's out there. I'm going to join him here in a minute after we're done. And I wanted to build a business, and I'm going somewhere with this story because it's going to benefit everybody. When I hired Steve Napolitan back in May 17th, 2015, I said, he did a strategy session with me, and I thought I knew where I wanted to go, but by the time I was done with him, I had a very clear picture of where I wanted to go with my business, what I actually wanted out of my business. And I wanted to be able to create a business I could do anywhere in the world, even on the beach in Hawaii, and now even in my car, wherever I'm at, and help a lot of people, man. And so it's just, once again, Steve, thank you, buddy, wherever you are right now. So with that said, let me do this because I want to introduce Carrie properly. And Carrie, I apologize. My last meeting went over a little bit, but I want to introduce you correctly here. And we're still waiting on Jessica to join us, but she'll be here in a minute. And so bear with me, people. And this just kind of goes to show you don't have to be perfect to be successful with this stuff, okay? You just be yourself. One of the things about marketing, I'll tell you flat out, is it's about getting attention. It's about adding value to somebody's life. And the more attention you get, the more people are going to know you. If they don't know you, they cannot flow you, okay? And so I met Carrie, 2012? 2012, 2013, you were actually my competitor back then, right? You were helping lots of businesses. Just an absolute master at systems and processes and things like that. And now you've evolved into literally one of my key strategic partners going forward because you're dealing, you're a speaker, you're a coach, you're an author, but you're focused on debt conversion, and you're a specialist in that area of helping people, specifically business owners, how to eliminate their business debt, how to streamline the elimination of their personal debt, how to literally cut that time by 10 and get there 10 times faster, which kind of fits the profile of our call here, which is the 10X Business Owners Mastermind Call. And so do me a favor, take a couple of minutes to tell us a little bit more about yourself, expand on what I just said, and share with us something personally.
Yeah, I was just seeing that Jessica was just about on and I wondered where she went. So thank you so much. Well, my background and the reason we knew each other is specifically around business coaching. And it was specifically strategic plans. So it was the 5-year financial projections. We'd go back 3 years, look at where you've been and what parts of your business were really trending well and what parts did you only like because you personally liked them, but they weren't really producing the right revenue or the right profit, which is more important, right? And the one thing that as we were doing that at the Secret Weapon Inc. was that I realized when I started this business that we did not have a line item that said debt retirement for business owners. Now that I'm in this business, I find that amazing. It's very exciting to be part of the debt conversion specialist team because yes, when you say 10x, I mean, we get people out of debt in sometimes a half the time they were going to be, sometimes 1/3 the time they were going to be. I mean, it is amazing that that's all they're going to be in debt and left to. And there are just so many myths around what we do. So that's why we're excited to be here today and share it with you.
Yeah. Jessica, I'm going to ask them you here real quick.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you guys?
Everybody, I want to introduce you to Jessica. That's Steyerwalt.
Put a little Southern slang to it and you got it.
Oh, man, I love it. I got it down, man. Single mother of 3, soon to be. Wow, congratulations. 21 years of experience in the financial industry, banking, the Federal Reserve, taxes, both personal and business, credit, debt, and money management, and you are a budget lover. So the reason I've invited these 2 experts here is because I think we're on the 3rd Thursday of the month, and it's always a discussion around finances. And I couldn't think of 2 better people to bring to the call other than you 2. The other thing is I'm a client of theirs. So everything that I have to vet anybody that comes to this call, and I will put my own brand, my own name behind the work that you guys do. The process that you've taken my wife and I through. I can't wait to see what your plan is for me, by the way, when we meet on Monday, but I'm super excited. So everything I've just shared, do me a favor, Jessica, expand on that, and then tell us a little bit something about you personally.
Absolutely. So I do want to not expand on one point. I'm not a single mother of 3 soon to be, meaning soon to be entrepreneurs, not soon to be.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm
just
reading your note that you sent me here.
Yeah. Just wanted to clarify. Sorry.
Okay. I read your note verbatim. Thanks for clarifying that. That's all good. You don't have to be a professional to do this stuff.
Right.
We say that all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say I hope that I did include the word entrepreneur because no, I am I'm good. They're 12, 15, and 20, and I don't want to do it again. I don't want to start over.
No, I'm done. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I did want to clarify that, but so one thing about me, I am a budget lover, but it actually started when I was 8. So my father taught me 3 things. He taught me how to shoot a gun. He taught me how to change a tire, and he taught me how to budget. He taught me what money actually meant in this world. So he came home when I was 8 years old he was one of those get rich quick kind of guys. That was just the mindset he had. And so he had a contract with Duke Energy because this was when computers were just coming out. So yes, I'm going to tell my age for a second here. Back in the early 90s, like ish 90s, Duke Energy, computers were just coming out, right? So they weren't in a lot of people's houses. That wasn't a common thing in people's houses. But Duke Energy was one of our big power sources here. And every 2 years, they would clean out their entire computer, like everything. Every computer got replaced every 2 years. So he had a contract with them where he bought them wholesale. He'd take them home, clean them up, put solitaire on them, because that was the game back in the day. Like you had to have solitaire on your computer. Okay, y'all know I'm telling my age, like really telling my age right now. And so then he would take them to flea markets and sell them. And so he came home one day after spending the entire day at the flea market with a stack of cash and said, "Tell me how much I made today." Those were the exact words he said. So being 8, I didn't really understand what he meant. So I started separating the money and counting it up. And I told him the total. And he was like, "That's not what I asked you." I asked you, how much did I make? And that was my introduction to profit and loss and balance sheets and how money works with leveraging time. And it opened my eyes to a whole new world. And so essentially I started writing the budget for my household at 8 years old. I've been writing them ever since. And that's just been a part of my life. It was a coping skill. It still is a coping skill. I love when things aren't going right in my life, I'll sit down and work on a budget because it's just the numbers are calming to me where they aren't most people. So yeah, numbers, and that's my love language.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. And what's interesting is I was just talking to a brand new client of mine, Tierney, here a couple of minutes ago before this call, and we were talking about some strategies on how to expand your business without spending a dime on marketing. Okay, in the beginning, most people really don't have, people are, well, it takes money to make money. Well, my personal mentor, Grant Cardone, was the star this last season of Undercover Billionaire, right? So they give you $100, they give you a truck, a cell phone. You're not allowed to use your name. You're not allowed to use any connections that you have. They drop you off in somewhere like freaking nowhere. Like, I can't believe where they dropped him off. I'm like, and you got to build $1 million business in 90 days. Okay, it's got to have $1 million valuation. And they audit it and they test it and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, so at the end of the 90 days, he did $5.7 million. Okay. And just to prove you don't need money to make money. Okay. You need strategy. You need skills. You need to know how to market. You need to know how to sell. There's 4 areas of business. You need to know how to market, sell, fulfill, and you have to have the administrative side of your business down. But marketing and selling are the holy grail. You've got to know how to get customers. And so I met Carrie back in 2012, 2013 when I was doing sales training. I thought, man, I'm gonna sell this IT company. I've just built the 4th one. I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to talk to another engineer the rest of my life as far as owning a company. And so we met while I was a sales trainer, and she was doing business strategy at the time. And then when I switched to business strategy, I'm like, well, now we're competitors. I mean, I like Carrie and everything, but and so one of the strategies I was talking to my new friend Tierney here is like the power of a power-based strategy. And power-based strategy, and I'm going somewhere, and we're going to land this on finance here in just a second because you ladies got some valuable information you can share here. But you got your family, friends, relatives, contacts. Okay, you've got your customers, past customers, your business type clients, and it's 2 different approaches. And most people, when I share that, they go, whoa, this isn't like Amway, is it? This isn't like a network marketing thing you're about to share with me, is it? I'm like, no, man. No, all you got to do is take the law of sowing and reaping and put it on steroids. Meaning, I'm going to call everybody I know. I did this when COVID hit. Grant told me to do this right when COVID hit. He's like, stop marketing. Don't spend another dime on marketing. Okay, everybody. I was in a mastermind group with him. There's 100 and I think in that particular mastermind group, actually the inner circle group, 115 business owners. He said, everybody stop marketing right now. You cancel all Facebook ads, cancel everything, okay? Now you're competing against COVID, you're competing against the presidential election. You're not going to be able to spend enough money to even get noticed, okay? Which shut down a ton of marketing companies. Instead, he said, we're going to run a power-based strategy. This is in his book, If You're Not First, You're Last, okay? And I was like, you're insane, dude. I've got all this stuff going. I got all these funnels created. I mean, it's like you're crazy, right? And so basically you call up somebody I got a recording. I'm not going to waste too much time here, but basically you call everybody you know. You just whip out your cell phone. You don't even need a script, You just whip out your cell phone, start going through your contacts. The very first person you recognize, hit call, okay? Hey, Joe, John Pyron, what's up, man? John, dude, I haven't talked to you in 3 years. Yeah, I know, man. How have you been? I was going through my phone. I saw your number, thought I'd connect with you. How are you, man? What are you up to these days? How's your family? How's your friends? What are you doing these days? At some point, he goes, well, what are you up to? Dude, I'm glad you asked. This is what I'm doing right now. This is exactly the impact I'm making. This COVID thing is crazy, but we're kicking butt and taking names, man. If I could ever help you out with anything, I got a massive network. Anything you ever need, you call me and I will make sure and help you. Man, John, that's great. Thanks, man. What can I do for you? I'm glad you asked. This is what I'm looking for. My gosh, man, I blew up like 25, 30% in the first 30 days just doing that. And I'm like, crap, man. So here's my point of me telling you this. Whether you're starting a business from scratch or you have an existing 24-year-old business like my buddy Alan Reeves. Alan and I have been together for 6 years. Okay. And when we came together, literally Mouse Calls was like going to be shutting down. Okay. And I know, Alan, you don't mind me telling the story because this is a plug for Mouse Calls. So we got together, we looked at Alan's skill set, we looked at Cheryl's skill set, we looked at, okay, here's the clients that we have. We created 3 new packages that are just, they're still selling like hotcakes today, man. It's like the home user, we got a program for them. The solo entrepreneur that's a single business owner or under 5 employees. We created these things called VIP plans. And oh my God, what did we do, Alan? Did we do any marketing? No. We picked up the phone. We called all of our existing clients. Okay. We go, hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. We told them about the plans. And then you had a retail store at the time, people started coming through, but now we had some stuff to offer. I think we sold in a matter of 14 days, more revenue than you'd created in like 6 months prior. And it just has not stopped since. Now, here's the point of me telling you the story. You don't need money to make money. These 2 beautiful people here are getting ready to share with you how you can make money now with the money you already have, because the way you're allocating your cash flow, and this is what I understand when you 2 were educating me on this, the way you're allocating your cash flow, you guys can show them specifically how to reallocate their cash flow, still eliminate the debt, eliminate it a lot faster, but immediately give yourself a raise and generate more cash flow. With that said, talk to us. Okay? Tell us about your program here. What is something that these people can take away from the call today, whether they connect with you or not, that they can take action on and have success?
I think sure. Well, there are a few things that people believe about debt that they can take away right now to understand they may not understand it necessarily better today, but what they will understand is they need to find out. And that is that, especially where interest rate is concerned, we always talk about, well, interest rate doesn't equal interest rate. What do you mean by that? Well, I want to tackle the smallest interest rate or the biggest interest, smallest debt, biggest interest rate. Well, it's all black and white on paper. Yeah, no. No, because there are different amortizations in the background that are working either for you or against you. And we don't know which one those are until we really get into the debt and take a look at what your debt looks like. But the first one is a mortgage. And whether you're in business or not, you have most people end up with a mortgage, right? And that mortgage debt can be, I don't know, Jessica, you have the figures, what 46 to 84% is actually what a mortgage total interest percentage turns out to be. In simple interest, it is your highest interest debt. And you'll find that on your paperwork. It actually has to say it on your statements, TIP, total interest percentage. Go find out what yours is, because it makes a difference in what you'll focus on and how you'll see your debt just to begin with. That's for starters.
I was going to say, to kind of pair with that, that was probably the part that's for me, the most educational part, because I work with a lot of people a lot of financial advisors, and, you know, and a lot of great ones at that, you know, and when we're talking about investment strategies and, you know, what to do, what not to do, you know, they're like, well, I'd rather my client put $100 towards investing versus paying off that mortgage, because they're getting it for 2.5%, 3%. And for me, it's like, wait a minute, but they're not actually. This year alone, they're going to spend over 75% of that in interest. And so that's really for us what it is. It's about the education part, right? And so Carrie's right when she says that whole tip thing. People don't believe it until they see the numbers. And that tip, it's in your closing documents. It'll break it. It literally breaks it down for you. It shows you at the very bottom what that tip is. And it's an astounding number. And it's for a 30-year, it's 48 to 84% typically is the average, somewhere in there, and for a 30-year loan. So that's one part of it. But the other part is again, you're a business owner. You know, John's job is to help you increase your top dollar. It always has been, right? He's like, focus on the top dollar. And that was actually one of the things that he said to me when we were meeting. He's like, my goal is to increase my top dollar. And I was like, well, my goal is to increase your bottom dollar. And that's why he says we help you make money for your business, because what we find is a lot of people throw a lot of money at their debt, not understanding what it's truly doing for them, right? So I'm from the South, from Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm going to show my Southern roots here for a second. But it's just like when you cook spaghetti and you take a noodle out and you throw it up against the cabinet to see if it sticks, to know whether it's done or not. Alan, you're laughing. So that means you know what I'm talking about. Thank you.
I'm in Nashville. What can I say?
Okay, there we go.
He's
See?
in Nashville, Tennessee.
Thank
man.
you.
He's in Nashville, Tennessee, back there, back yonder.
So you definitely get what I'm saying. But that's what people do with their debt, is they literally take their money and throw it at their debt with a hope and prayer something sticks. Well, I'm a firm believer that if you work that hard for your money, don't you want to know what it's doing for you, to the penny, to the day, to the dollar, right? And that's what we focus on, is helping people, give them an exact day and an exact dollar amount that their money is being applied and benefiting them versus it working against them.
When
Let
you
me
say,
let me ask you a question, because you hit on something. When, like, my wife has that kind of patience, right? But when you two were talking to us and we're sitting there and you're like, okay, like I have like a year left on this car, right? Like I went out, I made a decision one day. You know, I used to associate with Robert Kiyosaki personally, and one of the things he taught me is hey, if you want something, never pay for it. Okay. Always go out and find somebody else to pay for it. Right. And so in 2017 or 18, I'm like, okay, my divorce is final. If you've ever been divorced, hey, it's not the end of the world. I need my divorce car. So I'm like, man, I want a Mercedes-Benz E550 AMG, and I want it now. Okay. And that's all I saw wherever I was going, man. I came across this parking lot, this Ford dealership, and they had it sitting there. I'm like, that's the car I want, man. So I drove in, and the guy, it was in the afternoon. I was on the way to meet somebody Alan and I know, Sir T, and we test drove it, and I came back, and he goes, okay, do you want to do the paperwork? I'm like, no, I'll be back tonight, dude. I want to buy it tonight. And so he goes, well, let's go now. He goes, yeah, sure, whatever. I train car salespeople. They're not allowed to let you leave the lot. So I'm like, well, shit, I found my car. Now I got to find somebody to pay for it, And so I started making some phone calls, teed up a strategy session, went and sold a client, got all the money for the car, went to the dealership, and test drove it, took my son there, and they're like, okay, you want it? I'm like, yeah, dude. I says, if you can give me this, I said, I don't even care what the interest rate is. I don't give a rip, because I'm not paying for it. My client, Stephanie Scheller, is paying for this. Now, Stephanie, if you're watching this, you did. You know you did. So I said, you time that payment on the 16th of the month, because she pays me on the 14th of the month, and that money's got to get processed on her card and hit the bank, because I ain't paying for this shit. She's been with me for a long time. And so they go back, they look at, and they bring out the closer. Like we've all been in the car dealership where they bring out the closer. And I said, you're going to go back there one more time, and that's it. And I whip out their cash, because I had enough cash to pay cash for the car. I just start counting out this cash on the table, you know? And he's like, well, what do you know? And so long story short, I financed the car at some stupid, ridiculous interest rate because I only had to put like 500 down. I was like, because I ain't paying for this damn thing. Stephanie Scheller's paying for this thing. And so what I'm hearing you guys say, you guys, when we talked, you go, hey, what's the interest rate on that car? I'm like, I have no idea. And you're like, well, you need to find out. I'm like, so I'm online, I'm looking on there, and I have no idea. I don't even know what the damn interest rate was when I bought the thing. I just knew the payment was less than what Stephanie Scheller was paying me. You know? And so I'm sitting there, and you're like, no, I have to know to the penny. I'm like, why? Now, I'm not going to answer it. So tell the audience, for the audience's benefit, why is it so important for you to know to the penny what I'm paying on this car? What are you going to be able to do for me when you show me, hey, help us understand that?
2 reasons. One, because the more I know, the better I can assist you. And I don't work real well with hypothetical numbers, which is, I don't know, hypothetical numbers, because what we do actually comes with a warranty behind it. So when we have to the penny and to the day and to the interest rate, to the decimal point, we have factual numbers that we can work with. So and that's when our program is going to include the warranty piece behind it, because now we have factual numbers that we're able to stand behind, right? But the other part of that is, yes, we can do future forecasting. So we can run what if scenarios. So let's say, John, we had met you prior to you purchasing that car, and you called us and said, hey, I'm fixing to add a Mercedes to my debt. What is that going to do? We could have ran a what if and told you to the day and to the dollar that you were going to spend paying that car off, even before you walked onto the car lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a service that when you guys were sharing that with me, I'm like, and that's why I wanted to have this dialogue, is it's not just, hey, you know, these are two people that, hey, man, they're going to create a debt, you know, consolidation plan and a debt payoff plan. I mean, those people are a dime a dozen. But what the thing that impressed me about you guys is you're going to help me identify to the letter, to the penny, to the decimal point, exactly what the debt is, what it's actually costing me, you know, what the benefit is of, hey, John, instead of you and Allison going to Ruth's Chris and paying $175 for dinner, if you go over to Outback and get a steak dinner there and pay $75, the difference will pay off the debt in this many days less, and be able to show that. Plus the support that you just described is like, it's worth its weight in gold. Anything I decide, I'm going to buy this house, I'm going to buy this apartment building, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that, I can call you up and go, hey, here's what I'm thinking about buying. Can you run it through the calculator? You guys will be able to tell me exactly what it's going to cost me to the penny. Is that?
Well, actually, it's twofold. So you don't only get us, but you get the program itself. So you can go in and add that into the program and see it for yourself. And that's what really our clients prefer the most, is because they can go in and run what if scenarios inside of the program themselves and go, well, what if I buy the $30,000 car versus the $70,000 car? What is that going to do? You know, because you've got your frugal people like myself, and then you've got the people who are like, you know what? I want my dream car. I've worked long enough. I've worked hard enough. I want that $70,000 car because, well, I deserve it. So I've had a client. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. It was not one of my personal clients. It was another rep that we work with. It was their personal client who was trying to consider and figure out which route should he take. Should he buy his typical frugal $20,000 vehicle, or finally buy the car of his dreams? Like you, John, you had that car that was just the car of your dreams. So he went to the dealership, found out, you know, plans and everything else, and came back home, threw it all in the program, and realized that that dream car was only going to add 10 months to his final payoff. He's like, dude, I'm walking away with my dream car. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody that I'll be doing a
And
webinar
so-
with in just a little bit, but what she found is the same thing. An investor that she has, one of her clients, they wanted to buy a duplex, and they were looking at how much it was, what all the interest rate, everything that was, they thought it was a good deal. They went out to the car and they were able to plug it in to the system and say, so is this a good deal for us? All of our debt together, how much we're going to make with the people that are, the income from the property, where is this for us? And it was perfect for them. And that wasn't going to leave them in debt another 30-year loan, right? They were still going to be out of debt in just a few more. I think that hers turned out to be only a few more months with a whole other property. And I'm like, really? You can do that? When I first started this business, I couldn't believe that it would really be possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like when Carrie and I first talked about this, and because I was making a power base call. I was like, I saw you on my phone. I'm like, I haven't talked to Carrie in a couple of years. What's that? We started talking, and in our conversation, you're like, well, I'm no longer doing what I used to do. I'm doing this. I'm a lot more fired up, a lot more excited about that. I'm like, tell me more. And the moment you said debt, I was like, well, you know what? There's good debt and there's bad debt. Okay. And I'm interested in eliminating bad debt. I don't care about good debt. You need as much good debt good debt means that you're not paying for it. Okay. Your asset, like my car, is not good debt. That is bad debt. Even though Stephanie Scheller's paying for it, right? This car is not making me a dime. Actually, I take it back. It's probably made me a bunch of money because it's gotten me to and from where I need to go. But I could have got there in a Yugo. For those of you that are old enough to remember what a Yugo is, okay? I could have got there in one of those little bitty box cars that you can, I could have got there on a moped, So, but at the end of the day, it's like good debt is like, hey, it's an asset, a business, a real estate property, a program, whatever, that produces money to pay that debt. You're not paying it debt. It's not being paid through earned income. Bad debt, which a lot of people have, whether it's credit cards, cars now probably are an asset because they're actually appreciating in value for the first time in history. But you guys laser focus and attack, and then you guys use the probably my least favorite word on the planet. And I was like, like you were trying to get me into a cult or something, is you use the word budget. And I'm like, no, this can't happen. It's like, I've always looked at it, if I just focus on the top line number, I don't need a budget. And what I've been very impressed with both of you is the mindset shift that I've had, because not only am I master at creating that top line, but you guys have showed me how to squeeze every ounce of money to that bottom line and eliminate unnecessary expenses that I quite frankly don't care about. I still don't care about, but I'm adding up the numbers. I'm like, shoot, man, that's more cigars, whatever, right? So, hey, I want to open it up for some Q&A, okay? And because this is being streamed on live on YouTube, you only appear on that YouTube when your video is on. And so on this call, we want to take your questions. Your questions could be anything about finance, preferably, because that's our theme today. You can ask myself any questions you want about business strategy, sales, marketing, etc. Alan's an absolute master at technology, and in my opinion, one of the best marketers I know. But you got to have your video on, okay? So that way we can see it. And if you want to ask a question, just raise your hand or wave, and I'll unmute you. Chris, I'm just going to call on you, man. How about that? Because I've known Chris Martinez forever.
Hey, excellent.
What's up, brother?
They're doing great, Carrie and Jessica, thank you so much for taking time to share with us. I've been actually working on debt. Now, I'm going to be frank and open with everybody. And I renegotiated my loan for my house, right? And I ended up with a 50-year note, which is ridiculous, right? So my goal right now is to improve my credit score so that I can pay off my house faster using simple interest debt. And my process is taking my cash flow and putting the majority of my cash flow into the debt. Now, the analogy that I like to use is I'm going to use a credit card, for example. If I have a credit card that has $1,000 limit and I spend $500 of that, and then I pay that $500 before the 30 days, I don't pay any interest. Am I right? So if I use that type of short-term debt to pay off large chunks of my mortgage, I don't lose the buying power if I'm using flexible, simple interest debt. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm following you so far, and there's nothing I would disagree with yet.
So and the other analogy I like to use, because I was trying to explain this to my wife, is if I was to try to pay off my car and I have a fixed number of payments and I double the payments, and then say 2 weeks later, I say, oh, you know what? I need to buy tires. Well, that money's gone. I can't ask for it back. I lost the buying power that I have with my income by trying to pay off that debt faster. So it doesn't behoove me to pay off one type of debt with just cash.
Well,
Is that
I'm going to just say that one of the myths about debt payoff is that you have to use all of your disposable income to do it. We just worked with a client, and we only used $11 of discretionary income to pay off his debt from 24.1 months down to 11.4 months. And he will save $94,000 because it's algorithms that work. It's the timing of when you actually pay it matters. Whether you're paying it in small chunks or you actually put it in one, you set it aside and put it in big chunks, it matters. So that's what this system with all of the algorithms does for you, as opposed to you having to do your 6 spreadsheets for your 6 bills and then having to redo the spreadsheet every time you move money. It would take hours and hours. That's what our system does.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
and I'm going to applaud you, Chris,
go ahead.
because at least you're doing something.
Okay.
Let's start there. At least you're doing something. I've seen more 50-year mortgages than I would like to say I have, sadly. But it doesn't mean that you have to stay there. So like I said, I applaud the fact that you're trying to do something. Now, my part of it is I haven't disagreed with anything you've said, but my question, and I know Carrie harped on the time piece, which is huge, but how do you know that's the best use of those funds at that available time and the amount, right? And so both of those play a huge factor in this. And so I would say, again, coming from where we come from, we've seen things happen with minimal discretionary to where you're not changing your lifestyle. You're not having to, if you do move money from here or leverage money from here, you're not having to make sure your payment's paid on this date, because what happens if you miss a payment? Now you're paying interest on that you didn't necessarily need to pay. So there's a lot of moving parts that you're creating for yourself that this streamlines that process. And it's step by step right there in front of you. And you just follow the instructions. That's it.
Yeah, I calculated about 10 years to pay off a 50-year note. And it, like you said, it doesn't impact my budget because that I don't lose the buying power.
Right.
I'm taking advantage of the calculations, the interest calculations on the revolving debt.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would love to talk numbers because I'm intrigued by what you're doing, but I would say that I could add an extra level to it that would take it just a little bit farther.
Yeah, I'm actually, it's pretty much in theory right now. I still have to get my credit back up and do some things to qualify for some of these notes. So.
See, the thing is, you don't have to worry about your credit because we work with active current debt. So whatever you have, we work with it.
We aren't working with refinance. We're not working with consolidation. None of that is part of our program. Are some of those solutions for some people? They have become a possible solution, but finding out first is usually the best option.
Very good. Thank you.
Anybody else want to jump in? Raise your hand and I will unmute you. Okay.
You know, John, I just want to point out business debt.
Alan.
Go ahead, Ellen.
No, it's fine, Carrie. Go ahead. You were going to finish the thought.
I just was going to say that so many times business debt feels like good debt because you're making money on your business. It doesn't mean that we can't, you know, that being mindful of the interest that is going out that you can never recoup, that you can actually shortcut that and be able to invest further in your business. And that's really where we are with the business debt. Go ahead, Ellen.
Gotcha. This kind of goes back to what John was talking about just a little bit ago, and it opened up something in my head that I had come across the other day, and I thought it was kind of an intriguing debate. And I'm not really looking for a granular take on it at all. But I have a 22-year-old Jeep. It's my river car. I take, you know, when it snows, I throw it into four-wheel, take it out. During the summers, I take it to the river and float the river. And, you know, you throw anything in there. Don't worry about getting it rained in. Don't worry about getting it dirty. But I'm a member of a Jeep forum, and there's a very extensive conversation going on right now, and it has to do with used cars and, you know, the skyrocketing values that we're seeing right now with used cars. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of folks out there right now in the Jeep universe that are saying, you know, it's almost an investment to go buy a new one. Yeah, you may be paying interest and all that, but they're not depreciating. If anything, they are appreciating. And I know that a lot of people are using this, you know, they're doing this mental logic and hopscotch as an excuse to go buy a new Jeep. But things are changing. You know, I mean, housing here in Nashville is insane. Like in the neighborhood that I used to live in, there was a house that sold for $144,000 10 years ago. It's on the market now for $410,000. Mm-hmm. So how do fluctuating prices and values of certain commodities come into that equation? How do you account for those variations?
So I'm actually going to take this back to the whole topic John had about the good debt versus bad debt. So that in particular, when you're buying a house, you're buying a car as an asset, so to speak, right? We're considering it good debt because it's an asset. It's something that I'm buying, it's going to appreciate over time, that I'm going to make money off of at some point, right? For us, it's one of those things, and especially in the market today, because houses are selling for way more than I have ever seen them sell for. At some point, the market's going to shift. And then what, right? Because let's say you bought the house for $400,000, but the market shifts in 2 years, 3 years down the road, and the value of that home drops down to $300,000, but you still owe $380,000.
Yeah.
That means you're technically upside down. Then what, right? So for us, it's more about focusing on the here and now debt and creating a game plan that pays it off and as fast as mathematically possible for the sole purpose of creating more equity, so that you're either ahead of the curve or you correct the curve as soon as possible, or when you go to sell, there's more money to be made. So it is a true asset, right?
So basically, if you don't have the debt, you're really not a victim of circumstance. Yeah, maybe you do, maybe, you know, maybe your house is worth less than it would be, but you're also not upside down on it. You're tackling it now. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And same thing applies to, go ahead.
I was going to say, I found it pretty interesting when I first got into this. I didn't realize, for the most part, we pay for the equity in our house. So if you have a 30-year mortgage and you have a $200,000 loan at 4.5% and you sell it for $365,000 later, you've paid for every dime of that $165,000 in between with your interest, right? And so we think, oh, I got a windfall. Well, not really. You've been paying for it all along, right? If it's not as inflated as they are now. So it's something to consider when we do this. And yes, of course, the mortgage allows us to get into the house. Nothing's wrong with that. But knowing what you could do by eliminating some of that debt quicker, and as Jessica says, have actually more equity in it, gets exciting to watch people be able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, the house, I mean, if you look at it from the actual standpoint of what an actual asset is, right? So an asset produces cash flow, okay?
Mhm.
Hands down, a good solid asset. If you go back and read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, the cash flow quadrant,
Right.
anybody like this, follow Cardone, an asset only becomes an asset when it produces cash flow. So when you buy a house and you put 0 down, or you put, 10% down, or you got some of these people I live in Northern California, so you got a ton of these people doing, in my opinion, crazy stuff, selling their $1.2 million home in the Bay Area, coming out here, dropping, 800 grand cash on a house. Oh man, we got a house, it's paid off. Yeah, you got 800 grand tied up in an asset that ain't making you jack. Okay, because you're paying taxes on the place, you're paying repairs and maintenance on the place. That is a thing that's costing you money. Oh well, it's appreciated in value. You don't get to see any of that money until you sell it. Okay, you don't get to see any of that money, and you're like, and the bank loves mortgages. The bank created the mortgage thing. The bank was like, this is the greatest scam that we've ever created, man. People get this warm fuzzy that they live in a house and they own it. They think they own it. In reality, you don't. The bank owns it. You don't think the bank owns it? Try not making your mortgage payment. And let's just say you have your house completely paid off. Guess what? You still don't own it. If you think you own it, try not paying your property taxes. You'll see who owns that house. Okay. So the thing is taking that equity, working with the two of you and going, okay, I've got 120 grand in equity here. What's a play? How can I put that 120 grand to work to where not only does it eliminate my debt, but maybe I can invest in some other, assets that actually make me money. Right. And that's something that, correct me if I'm wrong, that if somebody's, working with the two of you, working on your system, you can immediately go, boom, this is exactly what you need to go do.
Mhm. I've had several clients that have, done like a cash out refinance because they've had $150,000, $200,000 in equity due to the market right now. And they've wanted to leverage that. And so it's one of those things where it goes back to, how do you know what's the best use and the best time to make that certain payment? So we had a friend of ours also had a client that speaks to this piece where they had a windfall money of $30,000 come into play. So same situation, right? Just windfall money. How do you apply it? Well, they were in agriculture, had several equipment loans, and decided to take that $30,000 and pay off a $30,000 loan, because in their mind, 30,000 equals 30,000. I'm saving myself 9 grand in interest. That's a pretty solid decision to make, right? So he calls the agent that he was working with and tells him what he did. And the agent goes, well, did you ever think to put it in the system to see what it would tell you to do? And he's like, no, it's, 30,000 paying off 30,000. Like, and I saved myself 9 grand in interest. He's like, I figured that was a good deal. So the agent told him to go ahead and put it just for S&L. You guys, or S&G, excuse me. S&G is my acronym for that. S&Gs. Just put it in the system and see what it says. And it did. And he did. And it was actually going to split those payments up into 3 separate payments towards his debt, and would have saved him an additional $15,000 in interest versus the 9 that he saved. All had he just put in the system. So again, 6 grand he left on the table. He willingly gave to the bank because he thought the numbers made sense to him. So that's why I go back to that story, because it's the same thing. Okay, you come across $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 in equity that you pull out. How do you know that you're using it to the best ability of your debts to pay everything off and to save you the most time and money? Again, you can have a guesstimate, but it's not exact.
Well, and I just want to point out one
Yeah,
thing
it's
that you
like,
just suggested was
go ahead.
pay everything off. People pull money out to pay things off. But as Jessica is always saying, well, let's stop and think, are you taking unsecured debt and now securing it with your house? Let's rethink that for a minute. If you have to do that, I say, there are situations that we get into. I completely get that. But if you were to look at it first and find out what the possibilities are first, you might find out that that's not the best deal for yourself, is to secure that unsecured debt with your home.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the funniest things that happened during the economic times like we're in right now, where real estate has appreciated so much, is you see these commercials. Hey man, now's the time to refinance. Interest rates are the lowest they've ever been. It's a great time to cash out that equity and eliminate that credit card debt. People go, you're right. You should buy a pool or invest in this. And they go, oh my God, that's a great idea. They go down, they pull out all this equity, they pay off their debt, and oh honey, we're debt free. This is great. Oh wait, we didn't change any of our habits. Oh wow. Okay, so now we've taken unsecured debt, put it in secure debt, and here we are 2 years later, the housing market turned, and we're right back where we started with, but now we are paid so much more in interest because we didn't get financially educated to change our habits. And the biggest thing I got, and I'm going to wind it down with this, is what I've gotten I've worked with a lot of financial people over the years, and the reason I wanted to have you on the show is the two of you are the real deal. Okay, in my opinion, you're not just looking at, okay, how do we consolidate this? How do we do this? How do we do this? It's like, no, each individual is different. And it's like, I go back to my example. You wanted to know to the decimal point, which really frustrated the crap out of me, on what I'm paying on this stupid car, and I'm like, okay, and now I understand why, and so the one thing is like, I know Carrie probably got disconnected. Oh no, she had to go to another call. Do us a favor. How can we connect with you? Okay.
So,
because after everything's said and done, thousands of people are going to watch this. What's the best way to connect with you two?
So I'm going to give you Carrie's information first. So obviously you can find her on social media, Carrie Hagensmith, and her phone number is, sorry, I'm just trying to pull this up really quickly. Let's see. Well, I'm overlooking your number. There it is. Carrie Hagensmith, 916-792-8897. Again, that's 916-792-8897. Or you can reach out to me, Jessica Starwalt, with the Southern slang to it. My number is 704-247-7530. Or you can also find me on Facebook as well. But I'll go ahead and tell you it's easier to text me because there's 6 of me. As weird as that is, because my name's not very common, there's 6 Jessica Starwalts on Facebook. So it's just easiest to text.
There you go. All right. If you want to reach out to Alan Reeves, you got anything that you need from a technology standpoint, mousecallsonline.com or shieldiq.com, okay, which I love, okay, because that program is going to change the universe. Connect with him there. For myself, johnpyron.com. You can always click on book appointments, schedule a 10, 15-minute chat with me. It's not a single business problem you can bring my way because I am the business doctor. Have a great one, guys. It's been fun. Come back here next week, 4 p.m., and we're going to be talking. What are we talking about, Alan, next week? We're talking about operations, right?
Correct.
We're talking about operations, administration, fulfillment, that sort of thing, systems. And so definitely come back next week, and we'll talk to you then. Have a great one, guys. We'll see you.
That's all.
Bye, guys.